and I think nationally, white students are 15% more likely to get a first than a BAME student. So in this attainment report, it actually looked into how Black and ethnic minority students are more likely to suffer from mental health by being isolated or being stereotyped or not being included. And unfortunately, this goes on into postgraduate as well. So I also do geosciences, and this report in Nature showed that actually there has been very little progress in the diversity of people obtaining a PhD in geosciences. Please know that this is a US study. One of the problems that actually British geology Twitter talks about again and again is that there's a lot of data in the US about attainment, but so little transparency in the UK. Why do we know so little about the diversity of academia? Why is there a failure to achieve diversity and inclusivity? You need data to know the scale of the problem. Why is there no motivation in that, even though students have been talking about it over and over again? And what I'm here to talk about that, though, is that, okay, I didn't want to go into data of underrepresentation in academia because you all know that, that's why we're kind of here. And there has been a lot of talks in terms of, recruiting, like outreach programs, but there's so little conversation about retainment because one of the best ways that you can advertise your university and your lab group being inclusive, encouraging, welcoming, is by having people of different backgrounds coming out and saying, like, actually, I enjoyed working there and I recommend it to you. If someone comes out of a university like, I had a horrible time, do you think that someone of a similar background would want to go there? Like, I have a difficult time talking to my middle sister who is about to enter university. She wants to study astrophysics. And I find it funny because I want to encourage her, but at the same time, like, I find it hard to be honest with her because I'm like, well, you're going to, if you want to go to the same institution I did, this is what I faced. I want to prepare her because the best way to tackle this is by being prepared. But at the same time, like, I don't want to push her away from some of the best institutions at the same time. And it's also hard to know what the best institution is. So the issue I find is that when it comes to recruitment, and there's so little talk about retainment, and when it comes to retainment, it's very much focused on white women. So when people talk about diversity, they don't really talk about diversity, they talk about how can we increase the number of white women. And this actually image is from the Girls in Geoscience group. This is what they have as a header. And every article I read, there was someone from my institution that wrote an article about girls in geoscience, like what it feels like to be a woman in geoscience today. Every person she interviewed at EGU, which is a geological conference hosted, one of the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest. And the only women she interviewed were white women. And it's interesting because everybody there said like, oh yeah, it's fine, I don't see any gender indifference, any gender barriers. But for a fact, it's known that actually women of color, especially Black women, the effects of sexism and racism is even polarized when you intersect race and gender. So it's interesting that when I go to my institution, there's pretty much 50-50 intake of PhD students, gender-wise. But I was like, for a while now, I was like the only ethnic minority, domestic ethnic minority student in my department. But there is now a brown man in first year, so I'm sharing that title now. I would think that if she interviewed maybe some women of color, maybe the article would be the same. I know if she interviewed me, it would not be the same. Interesting, she's from my institution. So when it comes to diversity, there is a problem when the diversity schemes prioritize white women because white women have used themselves as a buffer historically, protecting the white woman's virtue, how white women reinforce white supremacy. From history, we've seen that white women have been encouraged to travel to colonies so that they can reinforce the racial hierarchy during the suffragette movements. We've seen white women say that, I think Susan B. Anthony herself said that she'd rather cut off her right arm than the right to fight for black man's voting right. So, and then we have today as well, when we talk about the pay gap, we talk about women's pay gap, but they never talk about the gender differences within the pay gap. I'm sorry, the racial differences in the pay gap. White women actually earn more than black men. So even when we talk about diversifying retainment schemes, we always had a lot of pushback from white women. So it's interesting that when diversity schemes prioritize white women, but when you actually pull them out from the ways that they also marginalize people of color themselves, they will push back. Suddenly their interest in diversifying and retainment is gone. And I feel like this tweet kind of summarizes what happens when you try to pull out the white woman from the way they oppress. So I kind of just wanted to I wanted to talk about this because one of the reasons that I applied to talk on this program is because when I hear about ethnic minorities talk about why they are able to pursue their research, the one thing is that I've had a very supportive research group. But what happens when your research group is not helped? Like when people in your own research group tries to discriminate against you, what happens to those people? How do you prevent that, or how do you mitigate that, or how do you stop that? So I had my experience of racial harassment. What happened was at the beginning there was a comment that was made, pulled out, and then a couple more comments were made, and I was always the one that pulled it out. And then when you face harassment, what happens is that the POC enters like an internal monologue about how to navigate the situation. Like, do you pull them out? Do you feel safe to pull it out? How do you do it in such a way you don't get penalized? How do you do it in such a way that your research group doesn't think you're the problem? Because unfortunately, people do take sides with the oppressor. And then the aggression can become defensive. What happened was like, when I said, hey, I do not choose to be friends with you because you're making these comments that make me feel uncomfortable and you're not entitled to my friendship, what happens is the aggressor becomes defensive. They will start crying, saying like, what happens in this country that people are more afraid to be called a racist than the actual racist crime itself. So what happened to me was that they was calling out like, how dare you call me a racist? I was like, oh, I'm not calling you racist, I'm saying what you're saying is racist. So when people don't like being called they don't like being called racist, what happens is that you get like a build-up of microaggressions. So at the beginning it was loud being left, intentionally nasty, social events became a little bit uncomfortable, but they're just testing the waters. So when they see that other people are not stepping in or intervening, they're saying that what they're doing is justified. So then the microaggression slowly builds. So for me, it happened that I was starting to get slowly left out of certain projects, like we were asked to make a conference, our research group, but I was the one that was left out. And then also there was a few false accusations made about how I was using the equipment. And then when they see that again, this is unchecked, that gives them the confidence and justification to strike with a macroaggression. So for me, I was using a machine, but this person intentionally took out what I was using, put in her sample, and I said, hold on, okay, if you're going to use the machine, can you let me know? That's okay, just let me know. And she used this as a moment to kind of strike with a verbal diatribe about how I should stay out of her way, and how dare I call her a racist, how dare I do. I don't want to go too much into it, but what happens is that when you let microaggressions, you let them get away, what happens is it builds up to a macroaggression. So unfortunately, institutions still do not know how to handle racist micro and macroaggressions. So what happens when this occurs? How do institutions let you down? it occurs in a range of ways, from colleagues being a bystander, to gaslighting, telling you, actually, is there really racist? To tokenism, unfortunately, sometimes you get people say like, oh, well, this person's next to me and I'm brown, so this person can't definitely be a racist, but racism is more complex than that. You don't have to hate everyone that's not white. Supervisors, I unfortunately had a lot of denying does racism actually exist in academia, dismissal of the event, saying like, oh, she's just stressed, that's why she acts like this. Derailing the perpetrator's intention. I've been told things like, oh, maybe they're trying to challenge it in an academic way to demanding emotional label of the students. So when I said that, actually, no, you have to go to the students and say that this behavior is unacceptable, I was asked to write a speech that my supervisor should give to the student. Contacting the SU service, unfortunately that's the lack of service, procedure, solutions, so I was actually told to deal with it myself. And the only time I actually got any kind of momentum on it was when I reported it in my progress meeting. So it asked like, what's one of the issues that you have in academia? What's something that you can improve? And I said, well, I'm going to learn how to work with negative people. So supervisor emailed to say that actually has to stay neutral in this situation. Panel members who evaluate the situation actually are connected to everyone. The thing is, academia is very small, so everybody knows each other. So it's very easy to feel uncomfortable reporting because you don't know if they want to stay neutral, to stay on good terms with everyone. So people find it very hard to take action. Once I had an EDI meeting, it was all about how do you prevent the situation. How do you prevent the situation? But it was not about taking consequences. So at the end of the day, after all these actions took place, there was never a meeting with the aggressor that, hey, this is inappropriate, you shouldn't act like this. It was all about what can we do next to prevent it. And lastly, I was never given any feedback about what happened. So once I reported it, I was never given like, this is the action we took, this is how we're changing the policy, this is what we're improving. I was always left in the dark. So unfortunately, I have to cut short. So I think, so what I just wanted to summarize by saying is that actually institutions are still very unprepared on tackling racism in academia. There's a lot about being on the good side of everyone as opposed to actually taking action. I think what, so I think there needs to be I think people need to accept that when you want to diversify and inclusify your lab, your research group, good allyship takes sacrifice. When we're trying to increase equality, those in privilege will feel oppressed. So you need to work a little bit hard. You need to step in. You need to intervene. You need to. I think people need to just take more action when it comes to racism. Don't step back. Don't let it occur. Don't be a silent member of the audience. And that's how I'm going to summarize.